I believe the collagen matrix and the rest of it, and also grounding, is like the doorway to other areas of science. I don't know if I'm making sense, Rob.
Yeah, I really think that the matrix is pretty much the biophysical basis for a lot of these energy systems that have so like acupuncture and the meridian system and all that people have struggled for a long time to really kind of put establish what's actually going on in the body when you're stimulating those systems, and I think the matrix is a big part of that.
I agree, and which means that there's a component of it which is kind of quantum in nature, or I would like to say kind of there's an element of consciousness also. There's an element of a reality that it's immaterial, it's more than material, and I think that's the exciting bit about grounding, and you know what, with the limited amount of studies we do have, it makes sense and it's amazing. Okay, I think that's enough people here, so I'm going to start. Rob, so when I first, someone, I can't remember their name, they introduced me to you. They were like, you have to work with this guy, you have to see this guy's stuff. And I looked at your profile and I was like, yeah, forget the messaging. I don't care what you're saying. You just live in your life. So I was like, yeah, hold on, I'm just going to follow this guy. You remind me of loads of my mates. So it's like very easy to get, very, very easy to talk to. And then the first thing I told you was, I don't know what to call you, whether it was Earth Pappy. I'm man enough to say that. And you were like, no, call me Rob. Like, fine. And then, so what intrigued me about you is you were you know what you're talking about. Okay, so that's number one. But not only that, you're an artist. My God, like you care for your products. And I was like, that's such a rare combination. That's like creme de la creme. 0.1% in individuals who can do that well, and it's about grounding, which obviously it has to be. And I looked at you, I was like, I mean, all the girls in your area, they must, all the guys in your area must be so, they must look at you and be like, oh God, this man who can wear sandals that are grounded out, kind of running about, they have no chance. But yeah. And then I asked you if you would kindly kind of answer a few questions for Roots magazine, because actually a lot of the grounded individuals in science, one of them has passed away, rest in peace, I can't remember his surname, and then there's Rob, you might know, there's other people in the field. I tried to contact a few people. Clint, he was in the documentary Grounded. He said he would be up for conversations and stuff, but he's too busy, he's too famous. So I need, like, the scientists, I tried to contact scientists, I'm like, no. Then you pop up and you just know, you just, to me, understood it. You just understood it. So I was like, okay, this is such a blessing to actually have you write. Yeah. And you wrote me a thesis on it, and it's such a easily understandable way to, like, introduction to grounding. But yeah, what you wrote was transformative, and I've taken the stuff that's kind of circulating my mind, and it makes all sense. So that was a long-winded introduction, Rob. But yeah, tell me anything I missed about when did you start this kind of grounding journey, your background, your art, kind of start wherever you want.
Yeah, well, I believe it was Stephen Sinatra, who's a cardiologist.
Yes.
Is that who you're talking about? Yeah, he passed away sadly, but he's contributed a lot to this whole field of grounding science. But this is something I've been obsessed with for a long time, even before I started the Grounded Athlete and the sandals and Twitter and Instagram and all that. I studied physics in school and university, but I was also I took a lot of biology, chemistry courses as well. So I was equally as obsessed with the biology side of things. But after that, I wanted to. I was kind of just like figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, and I stumbled upon this whole grounding thing, and I realized the immensity that it held as far as being able to help a lot of people. And so from there I just kind of became obsessed, and it's it's a really good mix of things, because it really brings my science background along with my culture, my Native American culture, as well as my spirituality, my Christian spirituality, the Christian side of things, and it's a really interesting thing when those three things can come together: your culture and your academic background and your spirituality. So it really brings a lot of meaning to all the things that I do and all the things that I create. And I think it definitely shows in the things that I put out there. I care a lot about it, and I put a lot of effort into it. And I hope it reaches a lot of people.
No, it does. I mean, it definitely does. I think we're entering an age where science will be turned into an art, but only if you are lucky enough to understand the science. And it's kind of already started, and your shoes are a testament to those sandals. Could you go through like those three components of your life? And how they all intersect, because I think this will be very interesting to learn. And to anyone else who's requesting to speak, I'm going to just let Rob speak, and then we'll maybe the last 10 minutes, or whenever, if it turns more natural for conversation, we'll just kind of open it to the crowd. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the three things: the academic, the culture, and the spirituality. Well, I can start with the academic. I studied physics in school, undergrad and graduate school. So I very much, science has kind of been my baby. That's where my heart first was. But as a kid, as a Native American kid, I grew up in a very earth-centric culture. As a kid, I was always told to stay close to the earth. It's healing. It's sacred. And then later in my life, I came to be a Christian, and I don't disassociate these things with grounding. I think they're all very much intertwined with grounding. Even Christianity, I think God made this planet to be the way that it is. As far as the electrical properties, He meant for humans to be in contact with it for healing purposes, for energetic purposes, and I really think it's kind of my mission to return people to this healing electrical planet. But yeah, those three things coming together and kind of synchronizing, they bring a lot of meaning into the things that I do, the things that I create.
Yeah, I would probably say a similar experience to you and myself. Similar, but not obviously totally different backgrounds and everything else. But grounding has helped me in my meditative practices, and not only that, I had an experience in the forest. But I had to be grounded, and I saw the earth as my mother. The obviousness of that just came to me, but I had to be grounded because you have to feel the ground. Your feet. We've lost that connection, and I think that kind of connection is not only a material one, but a spiritual one, and also now and it also affects your health in more ways than one. How does not grounding actually affect your health?
Well, it's called being insulated. You're electrically insulated from the earth, and that affects your body's electrical equilibrium. Your body's meant to be in constant contact with the earth, and when it's not in constant contact with the earth, that's when health issues arise. And Hippocrates is the one that said, the father of medicine, illness arises from small daily sins, some sins against nature, and when enough of these sins accumulate, that's when a disease starts to arise. So when you're not getting that constant contact with the earth, so many things get thrown off balance. Redox balance, your immune function, energy production, all of that is kind of tied to your electrical equilibrium and charging up this bodily matrix. But I would say those are the big ones: redox balance, immune function, energy production, electrical equilibrium.
And this takes me nicely to the point of, I think, grounding and this matrix structure has been. No one speaks about this when it comes to cancer. It just makes sense. Mm-hmm. It makes sense when there's a breakage in this matrix somewhere, and overall, if the kind of organism is kind of insulated and there's no flow of these electrons as well, you're underutilizing your systems and therefore causing more inflammation, and because the system itself reduces inflammation, so it's like a double effect. Cancers are going to grow. It's just common. It's just normal physics. Is that something that you've thought about?
Yeah, I've been seeing your tweets about cancer lately, and that's something that's I think it's been very interesting for me as far as the matrix goes, especially as far as cancer immunotherapy. There are ways that the matrix manifests itself in cancer and in inflammatory barricades. So, and a lot of that comes down to a dysfunctional matrix, and grounding allows that matrix to function as it's meant to function. But tumor fibrosis, fibrotic response with a lot of cancers. That's a manifestation of the matrix. So I mean, we can talk a little bit about cancer if you want. I mean, if that's what you're interested in.
I mean, yes, please. But maybe before we get into cancer and the matrix and stuff, what is the matrix? When we talk about it, what is this thing?
Yeah, the matrix is it's the biobattery. It's essentially this huge network and highway of energy transfer and a charge reservoir network that's distributed throughout your body. And it's a highly neglected aspect of biology. So, when you look at somebody, you're not seeing just cells. You're seeing what's around the cells. You're seeing the space in between the cells. You're seeing ground substance. You're seeing fibers. You're seeing certain cells that secrete that matrix. But most of that is extracellular matrix. It's not cells, and that's a lot of our focus has been very very cell oriented, but the space around those cells is equally as important, and I think there's a lot of potential in there as far as studying that more and really figuring out how the body works as far as energy transfer and energy production.
Lovely. I mean, let me know if I'm wrong, but when the common idea of thinking, or the idea that our minds in the majority of science gets infected with, is that we think things only rely on the cellular communication. So whether it's cytokines or antibodies or even small kind of proton pumps. And though they do, they are still too slow for certain kind of biological reactions. So, for example, if you shock your skin on your face, for example, there's a sudden change. And yes, there's nerve endings, but I see it that the whole body internally and externally has this meshwork, just like you have in the heart and other parts of the body in the collagen and such. But there's meshwork. And when it comes to the meridian points, I think this is where that meshwork becomes more concentrated with other areas of kind of biological, in kind of highways like limbs and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm correct. If that's what you think, I'm not sure.
I see it from more of an electrical standpoint, kind of with this grounding stuff. But and they've done tests on this, and as far as the meridian system goes, and these acupuncture pathways, they're essentially they're these low impedance pathways for electrical energy to transfer through, and it's not just electrical energy. It's other different types of energy, photons, sound vibrations, all of these different types of energy can be transferred through it. But how? So what? I mean, I should probably just define the matrix really simply. The matrix is it's a continuous network. It's the only system in your body that has a direct connection with every cell in your body, a direct physical connection. And that goes from the nucleus itself, the chromatin, through the cytoskeleton, through the integrins that traverse cell membranes, which connects to the collagen fibers, and that's a bidirectional information network. But cellular health is largely it's a function of the matrix health that is local to that cell, because every cell has a different type of. It's got the same major components to it. Those fibers, the water, the ground substance, but there are differences between each cellular matrix, and cellular health is largely a function of that integrity of that local matrix.
Wow. Yeah, basically. A lot of the stuff you said there, many people have only probably heard in one other documentary or a few papers. But yes, it's like the overarching interconnected network that kind of is needed for everything else to exist in it and kind of in it. Like, yeah, so the cells kind of exist inside, and there's networks around the cells, which is part of the matrix. So that's there's like a kind of highway of an energy transfer.
Yeah.
It's funny how we call it kind of energy, right? Because at the end of the day, it is just energy. You know, it is this kind of woohoo kind of spiritual word. It kind of energy, because even photons is a form of energy or needs energy. Even electrons, there's energy there. Though at the end of the day, you have to see that even we can define particles and maybe pockets of energy, but at the end of the day, it's just energy. So grounding kind of shows that we are an energetic, or we are primarily an electric, or not primarily, but that's a major component of us as human beings. We're not just this walking organic matter, where we have a different energy. There's other energies, and what is this energy? Where does energy come from?
Yeah, and you know, I do agree. Everything is energy. That's the very hippie-ish way to say it, and I resonate with it. I like to see it from, you know, I think people like me and you like to see the scientific aspect of it too. But really, when it comes down to it, that's a lot of what everything is. This is just a transfer of energy, a transformation of energy. Going back to the matrix, there are different parts of that. I mean, that we can talk about. I would say the three biggest parts of that are water, collagen, and ground substance, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But wherever you want me to elaborate on it, just let me know.
Yes, please. Yeah, if you could go through each one, that'd be really useful.
Yeah. So we'll start with the extracellular matrix. And what is the extracellular matrix? It's a combination of fibers like collagen, reticular fibers, which are still types of collagen. You have ground substance, which is they're a collection of these glycoconjugates. So you have, you know, proteoglycans and glycosaminoglycans and cell adhesive glycoproteins, and a really important part of these glycoconjugates, these proteoglycans, these glycosaminoglycans, is that they're heavily sulfated, so they trap a lot of water, and not only that, they're negatively charged, and so these proteoglycan networks exist all throughout your body. So what does that mean? It means you have these reservoirs of charge all throughout your body, and they can get depleted if you're not charging them up. And you know, if you're probably, you know, getting a hint at what I'm alluding to eventually here with grounding, but these reservoirs can get depleted when you're not charging them up. And then another part of the ground substance is obviously cells, the fibroblasts, the different types of fibroblasts. But an extremely important part of that is bound water, is bound coherent water. And that essentially creates this battery, this separation of charge, of positive and negative charge all throughout your body, and that's used for what have you, immune function, energy production, ATP production, just overall electrical equilibrium. But those are the main components of the matrix. Particularly, it's the water throughout the body and the ground substance that needs to get charged up through a few different methods. That's essentially what this matrix is composed of. That grounding is having a direct influence on.
Wow, I mean, thank you very much for that. I was wondering if you could go through some of the methods, if possible, to actually charge us up.
Yeah, and so I call it the biobattery. This matrix is the biobattery. How does it get charged up? One way is through light. You hear a lot about the light side of things, you know, and there are a lot of people out there that make their Twitter threads and, you know, their whole Instagram about light. But grounding is a very, very important part of that. and it's a very neglected part of that. So I'm shedding more light on the second equally as important part of maintaining a healthy matrix, and that's grounding. That's free electrons. That's that you taking in that negative surface charge from the Earth. It's free electrons infiltrating your body and saturating this matrix network, saturating these proteoglycan networks that can be used for, again, redox balance, immune function, energy production, and electrical equilibrium.
Yeah, that it's basically as in get yourself out and you have to kind of immerse yourself with the earth and the ground. I want to actually ask you, could you do that internally? I have a theory, because you can also ground your internal mucosa, right? They've done studies where they've connected the tongue with wires and they've grounded that. Have you looked into that?
I'm a little confused on your question. So like grounding the internal state of your body, or what do you?
Normally, when what we mean by grounding is just kind of standing outside barefoot and getting charged up externally like that.
Yeah.
However, that's the external mucosa. I mean, like our skin on our feet and things like that. Now, in terms of the internal environment,
yeah.
I've been thinking: is there ways to improve, as in ground matter or the electron flow internally? Or we're just standing outside, just kind of do the same thing anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a measurable current exchange between your body and the ground. But I mean, they've done measurements in venous blood of a change of about negative 200 millivolts in venous blood. And so this is not, it's not just happening on surfaces and the physical areas that are in direct contact with when you're stepping on the earth. It's going into the body as well. It's so and that's I'm hoping I'm answering that correctly, because
no, it's an extremely unnecessarily niche question. I was walking through the forest the other day, and I saw myself as a mushroom. It was just like we are more closely related to mushrooms than we are plants. Now I say that because the ground matter, the kind of glycoproteins and the kind of protein, the rest of it, and all the collagen.
Yeah.
The thing that the organism that has that the most are mushrooms. Really? And I was thinking, oh, no wonder it helps with cancer. It helps with the grounding.
Yeah.
It must help improve that substance, whether internally or externally.
Yeah.
But that's why I thought, because they had done studies where they tested the internal, they put a round device on their tongue, and then they've grounded people that way as well. So you can internally ground. But I've been pondering about earth and internally grounding with mushrooms and kind of dichotomous earth and all that rubbish. But yeah, I don't know if you had. It was just a fleeting idea.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way. But I never thought of it that way. But it's an interesting perspective for sure.
I wanted to ask whether you want to take it down. I was going to ask one of two questions. What are your theories on cancer, and how does that tie with grounding? I only asked that because it's going to become a common disease.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask was, how did you get into your art? How did you get into your sandals?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, cancer, one of the greatest killers of our age. So I mean, I guess to start off, I'll go back to what I said earlier. Cell health is a function of the local matrix environment, the matrix that's adjacent to those cells. So let's tumor fibrosis is a pretty common thing with a lot of cancers. The fibrotic response, and like I said earlier, that's a manifestation of the matrix. And so, in cancer immunotherapy, one of their goals, as far as seeing if someone is responding to the immunotherapy, is turning cold tumor cells hot. And what does that mean? It essentially means that the cytotoxic T cells, the CD8 cells, are able to infiltrate the tumor and resolve it. It's a good sign that they're responding to immunotherapy. But what they find in this fibrotic response with a lot of tumors is that this matrix will essentially wall it off. It'll become really dense around tumors, and that makes it really hard for circulating anti-inflammatory molecules, anti-inflammatory immune cells to infiltrate that area. So, and what they found with a lot of research with antifibrotics is they essentially they know that it's these collagen fibers that aggregate around these tumors because the fragments of that matrix gets leaked into the bloodstream, these pro-collagens, these C3 molecules. But what they find with a lot of these antifibrotics is that the T cells are they're much more able to get into those areas where they weren't able to get to before, because of that dense manifestation of the matrix. And that also reminds me of the inflammatory barricade, which is another big part of grounding. I think taking a more matrix-centric approach to cancer is going to be one of the next big things, and you'll find a lot of researchers in this whole matrix field saying the same thing. But if we can kind of shift our focus a little bit, I think there's a lot of potential there as far as relieving ourselves from a lot of these chronic non-communicable diseases, which are the number one killers worldwide.
Yes, I mean, I agree. Grounding does so much, and like you explained, the body's natural response to a non-healing wound is to form a barricade around it to contain it. That's just a natural response. However, if the circulating blood supply of antioxidants is not there, then it will just grow. So that's when you have a cancer. So then basically this used to have the collagen matrix there, but it's underutilized in most people, and that's another reason why the cancer was formed in the first place. So now when you're grounded, it charges you up, and then you can move the energy and have electrons move to sites that the blood circulation could not previously go to. Now that's going to help because that's how kind of wounds are healed, but also grounding helps with vagal nerve tone. It actually reduces your stress levels. Mm-hmm. It just helps with everything. So definitely, if I had cancer, I would be grounding. I would probably just bury myself in lots of mud. With my kind of, just looking up at the sun when it's nice and warm, and then take everything else. You know what I mean? So, it's going to be it's going to be one of those things like cold immersions or even breathing. It's a necessity of life. And
the cool thing about grounding is I can take this and I can extrapolate it, and I can apply it to pretty much any ailment that's affecting somebody, because what should you look for when you're trying to figure out how to help people as far as alleviating disease? Well, you look for things that are universal throughout those diseases, and what are a couple things that are universal throughout diseases? That's inflammation, it's excessive inflammation, and it's excessive oxidative stress. And so that's well researched. You do any search in any like PubMed or something, you'll find thousands and thousands of articles that document this. But and that's the reason grounding helps with so many different things. Not only are you allowing your body to function as it's meant to function with that electrical equilibrium, but it's affecting something that's literally implicated in everything that's killing us.
Yes, I couldn't say any better, really. And not only that, as soon as you ground, you become protected with the Earth and universal energy, basically. So it's like a no-brainer, really. And it's one of those things that will just help with everything. Like circadian rhythm. I probably even say grounding even more to an extent because you're tapping into this other unrecognized form of energy at the moment in time. Where do you think research is, going in the future? What do you think this understanding will bring about to the industry?
Are you speaking like like research in terms of the matrix, or research in terms of grounding?
I mean probably both, because they're both needed for each other. But just that new space.
Yeah, I think the matrix is going to be the new hot topic, and that's where a lot of attention is going to shift to in the next 5-10 years here. But as far as grounding research goes, I think it's always going to be something that's waning, because at the end of the day, it's something that's free. It's not going to make anybody any money. And what do you need to conduct research? You need money. And where do you get that money from? Usually from people that want to sell something.
Lots of money, like maybe Nike. Who knows? Maybe. I don't know. But it's one of those things like sunshine, where it's there and it's the basics of life and health. So you kind of also don't need the studies, because after a few you're like, okay, it's grounding. How many more do you really need? Like, okay, what's it not gonna help?
Exactly.
Yeah.
kind of a common sense thing, I think.
It is, isn't it? Like, after a while, there's no more research needed. It's like you read a book and someone's like, oh, I read this book. I'm like, yeah, I don't really need to, because the basics of health you kind of get. And you see it in your own health. You're like, oh my God, like obviously this helps. I don't even need a paper, even if it says, oh, we're grounding for an hour a day. It's like, how do you put a limit on grounding as well? People always ask me, how much? What is your answer really, to that question?
That's a fun question, because it's a very common question. How long do I need to ground, aka how little can I get away with on a daily basis? But if you look at it from like a research standpoint, how long these people are grounding for, it varies from instantaneous effects to they're grounding for a couple hours and they see benefits. They're grounding through a whole night of sleep and they're seeing benefits. They're grounding for 2 months and these benefits are manifesting. But really, I mean, humans have evolved to be in constant contact with the earth, that electrical surface charge. So really, I mean, you should be grounded 24/7, 365. But I tell people all the time, and it's any amount of barefoot time on the earth is better than none. A lot of these studies, what they find with these physiological changes that are manifesting when they're grounded is that they shift back to baseline or pre-experiment, which is kind of lame, but that just goes to tell you you're meant to be in constant contact with the earth, just not like little bits here and there. But there's another part of this too. It's something called your inflammatory preparedness, and that goes back to the matrix too. That's essentially how saturated your body's matrix is. The electrical integrity of it. Is it charged up? Is it charged up by light? Is it charged up by grounding? And so somebody that is in a state of low inflammatory preparedness, they don't get a lot of exposure to natural light. They don't get a lot of exposure to bare earth under their feet. Not necessarily under their feet. They could do it inside too, but I mean that's a different conversation. But so I think any amount of time is going to be good. Some is better than none, but the inflammatory preparedness side of things. So like, say somebody has gone their whole life without hardly getting any contact with with the surface of the earth, and they're battling all these different ailments. They're in a state of high inflammation and low inflammatory preparedness. So that means they need to spend more time outside barefoot, as opposed to somebody else, a younger person who gets a lot of barefoot time outdoors, and they're in a relatively healthy state. They're in a state of high inflammatory preparedness, and might not need as much. So I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same way I see it as well. And like, yeah, you're right. That question is, how little can I do for the benefits that you tell me? I'm like, I mean, like, okay, as much as you can with what you have.
Yeah.
So don't obviously stress about it, but as much as you can with what you have. And we have the internet, and we have other things available, and other technology that can help us ground indoors as well. But before we get into that, yeah, the preparedness is basically like a bank, isn't it? Like, you keep energy stored, whether that's in fat reserves or vitamin D or wherever it is. Our body is an adaptable thing, an organism that lives on this planet. So we've evolved to carry this energy. However, most people don't charge it enough, so they don't have it. So any small thing can knock them.
Yes.
So when you do ground, you just give your body just an additional kind of shield, and so a wound healing will actually happen faster, and other things will just seemingly work, and you actually sleep better, and other kind of hormones will start to regulate itself. For me, I love the word grounding, because it really does actually ground you, humbles you internally, mentally, psychologically, and also spiritually, but also in the physical sense. It takes you to level 0, what you should be as a human, and then everything else begins to regulate itself naturally if you're very honest with yourself. Helps me recover fast after exercise. What are some like unknown benefits that you've noticed? And I was thinking of something else. Once you answer that, I'll answer the next question.
Well, I mean, the Twitter threads are kind of a dime a dozen right now as far as grounding goes. You know, they all say, it's anti-inflammatory, and it does all these things, and I can tell you more about those things if you want the specifics of what's going on there, but I don't focus on them too much, because I think it's you're kind of missing the forest for the trees there, as far as seeing the greater importance of what's happening to your body when you ground. Yeah, HRV is going to improve. Yeah, blood viscosity is going to improve. Yeah, you're not going to experience as much excessive inflammation after exercise, and all these things. But these are all really just manifestations of a healthy matrix and charging the kind of the biobattery in your body. And that's really what I've been preaching, and what I really emphasize in everything that I do for the last 4.5 years. A lot of it's been the matrix. So healthy matrix, it manifests in all these benefits that are you can read about in these papers that I have on my website. But so I think they've all kind of been touched on a lot as far as like the individual benefits. You got your blood viscosity, and your HRV, and reduced excessive inflammatory response to exercise, among other things. But in the book, I talk about the big three. The big three things that are happening is that the density of negative charge is increasing in your body. That's number one. Number two is that you're attenuating the excessive inflammation and oxidative response in the body, so the body's able to manage that and moderate it, so it's not contributing to disease. And then number three is it's charging the water protein matrix battery, and I strongly believe that it's from those big three mechanisms of action that a lot of these benefits that you see, lots of Twitter threads on, that are arising from. But I think I'll give you one though. One really cool one is, it's called the skin battery. Maybe you've heard of it. It's the potential difference between the surface of the skin and the dermis below. But it's around negative 23 millivolts. So you got a negative charge on the surface of the skin, and a slightly positive charge underneath. So when the skin is breached, if the surface of the skin doesn't have a slightly negative charge, and it's from grounding, that won't allow the immune cells in that area to migrate as effectively to that breach in the skin, that cut, that scrape, that injury. So it's called the skin battery, and I think it's a really really cool phenomenon. And it's in the book too, but I think that's an interesting one that not a lot of people talk about. But they're essentially these batteries all throughout your body. But yeah, I mean, if there's one that's like really of interest to you, I'd be happy to talk about it. But again, all these are just manifestations of something much greater that's going on.
Yeah, that's the thing. We should be grounded, basically. We shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
However, the world has morphed over time, and now we are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, unfortunately or unfortunately, it doesn't really matter. But that's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I can just kind of throw something out there. Grounding's going to improve this. Is it going to be likely? Well, yeah, because grounding literally affects like everything in your body. So it's always funny when I see those kind of tweets out there. Grounding improves this really 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 specific thing. Well, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, probably it really affects everything. So
exactly. Exactly. I think when people ask how much is for grounding, they want to know the minimum. But also, look, if you have lived a life with more synthetic blockage from the world, and you wear boots all the time, then you probably need more grounding. If you're around more kind of EMFs, you probably need more grounding. If you have a larger body weight, you probably need more grounding. If you have wounds and other conditions, you probably need more grounding. And grounding's effects happen straight away, but obviously your charge has to change over time. So the more grounding, the better. Mm-hmm. And if you can, always grounding. Mm-hmm. And so your sandals are amazing because they help you ground everywhere. And I wore them to Target, and I wore them on my first ever visit to Target, and I love them. They're proper gangster. Like, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Like they have a silver on it, and they're handcrafted. I feel like a gangster wearing them. So yeah, and people always say, "Oh, I live in America and I can't ground because I don't have any grass around me." I managed to ground outside barefoot in Detroit, mm-hmm. and then your sandals came, and then I was walking around everywhere. So yes, they're not they're sandals. So in the colder climates, at the moment I think you're working on stuff. Hopefully in the future, blah blah blah. But but the sandals are amazing. You can ground. I wear them, and I don't have to worry about any glass, any needles, anything. Because the area I live isn't the best, but I still manage to ground. So
beautiful. I'm glad you've been enjoying them.
I love them. When they came, I was like, this is so good. Like, this is a sort of, because you've combined you in it, and you haven't really there's nothing to prove. It's just a work of art. Yeah. And there's such a lovely wide range, and you do those other things as well. I'm myself getting into making stuff because I love writing. That's my art, my primary art. But I also make music and stuff. But I like making stuff, and it was just lovely to see you, someone in the health. I don't really like to call it the health sphere, but someone who likes science, also liking art and making something very, very beautiful. Yeah. I was wondering if you could share, if you want to, maybe how grounding has connected you or helped you with Christianity. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want to share anything.
Yeah, for sure. I always think of Genesis 2:7. God created man from the dust of the ground, and into his nostrils he breathed the breath of life. So you were formed from the dust of the ground. You were made to be in constant contact with this planet that God has created. When you separate yourself from it, shit starts to happen. So I think how I tell myself this story is that you're on a mission. You're on a mission to return God's people to this earth, and that's a very heavy thing for me. And it means a lot to me that I can wake up every day and I can make these things. I can create art. I can write about this whole process of grounding in the body, and as much as I want to, and it's reaching people all over the world. I get messages every day like, I saw one of your videos, or I read this thing from you, and it's just like I started doing it, and it's helped me with this, and what have you. And that is like, it's such a good feeling. It's such a good feeling to be doing that kind of work. But I mean, going back to what you said earlier, though, I don't know if I'm really in the health sphere. I'm not really kind of one of the health gurus, but I just like to focus on grounding and really kind of pinpoint that and dive deep on it. But yeah, again, it's tying together so many different aspects of me: my culture, my spirituality, my academic background, and then on top of that, it's art too. Like I get to express myself through this book, through these sandals, through all these things I can create, and I can shape and shift, and I can mold things and make them beautiful, and overall just spread that message of grounding. And that's a very, very fun place to be.
I bet. I mean, when it's funny when you begin to fall in love with the universe and appreciate it and see the reality for what it is and look for the truth and be a good person, it rewards you back. It listens to you. Consciousness and thoughts exist in the matrix, in the reality of life itself, and then amazing things actually happen to you. And you're like, I mean, no wonder, right?
Yeah.
What is this reality we talk about? We have limbs and fingers and legs, and we move around, and if you take your time and you just stop, you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I think grounding, or I know grounding provides, if you look for it, all the answers, and it will show you all the answers at the same time, and it's only a benefit. So thank you for making your art, and we are extremely blessed to be in a position where we can make things that we enjoy and that sit right with us as well. And you will be putting high vibrational stuff out there. When you make stuff, you're doing it out of love. So those sandals and various other products that you make have good karma. Have good energy in them. So if when people are lost nowadays, and a lot of people have this negative headspace, and first I say, have you grounded? And then number two, I say, support good things if you can. There is a request to ask you a question, Kayhan. So Rob, for the last 5 or 10 minutes, I'll let people ask you questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. How do I see them? Do I look at the...
It's just so they've requested, so I just let them on.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, for sure.
Speak, and then they'll ask you questions. Sometimes it's a troll.
Okay.
That's fun. That's fun.
All right, I'm ready.
Who are something? Katona. Who are Cantona?
Yeah, football terrace song. I've been doing the grounding for a couple of years or so, mostly on soil. I just wanted to know what you think about other, like maybe on the stone slabs in your back garden. Is grass as effective as soil? Is it a different charge? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's a question a lot of people ask, is where am I grounded? And I think that's what you're asking. Where am I grounded, and where am I grounded most effectively? And that's a really easy search away. Really what it comes down to is electrical conductors and electrical insulators. So what's the difference between an electrical conductor and an electrical insulator? Electrical conductors, they hold on to their electrons very loosely, so electrical energy can pass through it fairly easily, and then insulators, they hold on to their electrons really tight, and so it's hard for electrical energy to get through it. But what a lot of being grounded comes down to is if you're standing on a conductive surface that's in contact with the earth, or is the earth itself, you're gonna be grounded. So let's take a couple examples here. Let's take cement. Let's take asphalt. What is cement? Cement is mainly mineral and water. and it's conductive, especially if you get it wet. Now let's take asphalt. What is asphalt? Asphalt's mainly a petroleum-based polymer, which is very insulating. And so those are, and really, what's going to come down to is searching up, what am I standing on, this certain type of tile, what is the composition of it? Is it electrical conductor or insulator? That's really what how you're going to find your answer there. But I think always it's going to be direct barefoot contact with soil on the earth. That's going to be your best bet. And there will be slightly different readings as far as using a multimeter. If you're on cement, if you're on soil, if you're on a grounding mat, and soil is always going to be best.
Yeah, that's a good question. People ask that a lot, but it's basically what's available and what's most natural, and probably more wet. You can go in a stream in your local park and you lie down in there. I get if you put most of your body in that, submerge yourself in those things as well, you get more grounded.
Yeah.
So in the sea, and you swim in the sea. But yeah, for most people, it's barefoot walking.
The beach and trees are ones that get thrown in there a lot too, because they're not necessarily grounding you. A lot of people say go hug a tree. It's not going to ground you. It's wood. It's electrical insulator. So you're not going to be grounded. Hugging trees, and then on the beach too. When you're standing on sand, especially when it's far away from the water, there's a lot of air. There's a lot of air in that sand. It's and air is very insulating. And so that dry sand, you're not necessarily grounded. The closer you are to the water, you're going to be grounded. But and that goes back to the soil thing too. When I was answering that other question, how dry is that soil? How dry is this area that I'm standing on? That's also going to play a factor as far as conductivity goes.
Yeah, that was really well said. Does anyone else have any other questions? I'll give you guys like 15 seconds. Oh, okay, yeah. Cantona, you have one more?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the answers. And just during this space, I just nipped out into the back garden. When I haven't got a lot of time, I just really dig my heels into the soil in the back garden and toes, and then back in the living room to listen to the space. And I just want to say, Eashwarran, your Twitter page is amazing. I see you from a small following to a huge one now. And congrats on your good news. I wish you all the best. And keep up the great work, guys.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. That's really nice. So I was doing a one-on-one today, and the last thing they were like, oh yeah, congrats. And I was like, huh? Oh yeah, I forget, like I share like just random stuff with you guys. I just share it and like leave my phone, and then I come back and I'm like, how do you know? Oh wait, I shared it last week. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, go on.
You gotta be careful with that. Sometimes you share too much. I tend to mix my personality sometimes too much with what I do, and so like it really kind of gives people it's weird because like 1 minute you'll see a really comprehensive thread or video on grounding mechanisms, and then the next thread I'm talking about e-girls or something like that. So it's really like it's kind of like all over the place, but yeah.
But that's what I like about you. I like about also Grim as well, who's here. Like there's only so much you can talk about health in that time, and sometimes you just want to just put something else in. Have some fun. Yeah. And health is, though it's a major component of everyone's lives, obviously it's not the only thing, right? Yeah. And I think social media can become a place where it's not very social, so I just post wherever now, and people appreciate, I think, people just like people being people, and if you don't like it, you can unfollow me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So
it adds
forcing you. I ain't forcing you.
You don't
have to.
It adds a lot of authenticity to what you do too, because if you look at a lot of the health sphere with Twitter, it's a lot of it. What it is it's just kind of a lot of parroting. It's a lot of really robotic tweets, and there's not a lot of personality in there. And that's something I see a lot on a daily basis when I'm on Twitter is just I see the same tweets over and over and over again. Maybe like something slightly changed, and like that's it. Like it's just it seems so robotic and like synthetic to me. And I like to see people's personality, and I like to see their perspective, their actual perspective on things, and actual like insight on things. It's really really hard. Like is with as much health stuff that you see on Twitter and Instagram, you know, you would think that there would be more insight with this stuff, but there's not a lot of insight. There's a lot of information, but there's not a lot of insight on things, and that's really what I look for, and that's why I follow you, Ish. That's why I follow Grim. That's why I follow Dennis. So.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I can't really comment on other people's lives and stuff, but I think if you're just true to yourself when it comes to your health, you will get to a point where you become healthy and happy. And I'm seeing this a lot with a lot of various other profiles. I see that in the nature of their tweets, where it's like, oh, I see, you're happy now. Like, your health is good. Like, you're happy now. And it's